Good evening, everyone. My name is Norville Barrington. I serve as your chapter president for the Metro New York chapter of the National Black MBA. I want to welcome you to session 2 of our 4-part series focusing on Conference and Career Expo prep. And we are looking forward to having our guest speaker, Danielle Heuer, from WD Communications, who's an expert in communications and is going to focus specifically on elevator pitch. And why the elevator pitch is so important. We're going into a season where, guess what? We are in recruiting season. That's right. So from August to November is one of the prime seasons where corporations are looking to hire top talent such as you. This season also presents opportunities for you to maybe explore new career opportunities and or position yourself for future conversations. And our goal here is to make sure that we are prepared for these opportunities as they present themselves. We want to thank our corporate partners, the Estee Lauder companies, Accenture, Morgan Stanley, and S&P Global for partnering and sponsoring our chapter and also being a part of our local and national career fairs, which we're going to get into in a couple moments. I want to make sure that on this summer Wednesday, we are ready and excited for this presentation. And we want you to be engaged, so feel free to use the chat for any questions. We're also going to ensure that as we are looking at post questions coming from this session and other sessions that we have, that we will make sure that you get in contact with our guest speaker, Danielle Heuer, which I'm going to introduce in a couple moments. Now, in addition to this session, we also want to give you some information, again, some reminders, some big events that are happening, specifically the 2 career fairs that we have. Our Premium Virtual Career Fair, September 15th, which is hosted by the New York chapter of National Black MBA for the first time. And this is going to be exciting for the first time within our 10th time doing this event, which we've brought a number of different opportunities to you, both locally and nationally as well. Our career fair has extended its time, which I'm so excited about. We've heard the feedback from you. And also ultimately our corporate partners, we're going to extend our time. It's going to be from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. That's 2 extra hours to connect and look at opportunities. We also will be sending out emails from our corporate partners regarding new jobs and new opportunities from our corporate partners. And we're going to introduce some new corporate partners that are looking to recruit top talent such as yourself. Now, one thing to also know that we're looking for a number of experienced hires. So one of the things that I want you to take away from our chapter, and ultimately as you're working on your elevator pitch and ultimately get your resumes touched up, is that whether you are seeking new opportunities or you're thinking about what you're looking to do in your career, the Premium Virtual Career Fair on September 15th is a great way for you to connect with new companies and ultimately put yourself in position for new career opportunities and ultimately gain financial outcomes based off of your goals. Secondly, I'm excited about our National Career Fair in Atlanta, Georgia, the National Black MBA Association Career Fair, Career Conference and Career Expo will be happening from September the 27th to October 1st. The Career Expo portion of our great conference will happen on September 29th and September 30th. Over 250 companies that will be looking to hire top talent such as yourself, whether you are MBA candidates that are looking to gain internship opportunities, looking for your full-time position from your MBA candidacy, and ultimately some individuals who are looking at opportunities in the mid-career aspect of your journey. This is an opportunity to put yourself in person with companies that you wouldn't necessarily engage with on a normal basis. So it's a great opportunity. So 2 huge dates where we're going to be focusing specifically on the recruiting aspect of talent acquisition piece of the recruiting journey. Now, today, again, we're going to focus on the elevator pitch and making yourself prepared. We're also going to maybe touch up on when we look at the resume itself. We'll also touch on some things that you're going to extract from your resume and get into the elevator pitch. But again, our guest speaker is going to touch on those things as well. Again, this is part of our 4-part series. Last week, we did talk about getting prepared from a research perspective. And now that you've done the research, you kind of know who you are. You know the companies you want to aim and get in front of. Now it's about putting it all together. Now go ahead and introduce our guest speaker shortly. Just a reminder, again, our 10th virtual career fair, our premium virtual career fair is coming up. We have 12 companies that will be part of our virtual career fair. We're going to be naming a number of those companies in the weeks to come. In addition to that, I do want to put your attention to some updates as relates to some career opportunities for you to get in front of a number of companies. On September the 7th, we'll be focusing on Puma North America, our newest corporate partner, who are going to be looking at opportunities in the marketing, finance, procurement, innovation, and so many different opportunities. Puma North America. I cannot wait to connect you to this great company. And the great thing about Puma, and I'll say this openly, the new diversity officer actually got her position through the National Black MBA, right? So now we're talking about family. We're talking about individuals who understand the journey that you have been, that you're going through right now, has also benefited as well. Always keep in mind, whenever you see someone part of our chapter, there's a strong connection. And in this part, this individual who we're going to present in a couple of weeks here, Michelle, she is part of the National Black MBA as a member, and ultimately is now head of diversity at Puma. So Puma will be here on September the 7th virtually. We're also going to have an in-person event at Raymond James as well. So that's going to be September 8th. We're going to update those dates here for you. That's going to be an in-person cocktail networking event, which we'll update as well and give you some more information about that. We're also going to have Bernard Ricard, who is going to be presenting opportunities within the spirits industry and spirits category as well. So brand management, finance, product development, marketing, that's also going to be virtual as well. So those are some events that we have from our chapter. There are a number of events that are coming up from a recruiting side that we're going to touch on. And we're going to make sure that you have that information available to you. If you have not received any emails, please visit nyblackmba.org, where you'll be able to subscribe to our newsletter. We send emails constantly, not only of positions, but ultimately some news from our various pillars. And it's important that you stay in contact with us. So now, why are we here? Why are we here? So let me set the stage for you. It was in 2011 when, as a professional, I decided to go to my first National Black Career Fair and Expo as an MBA candidate. And I was asked on the airplane to who I was and ultimately where I was going. And it was a rhetorical question because anyone on that particular plane was probably going to National Black MBA Conference, where a CIO of a Fortune 500 company introduced himself to me, and ultimately it turned into a conversation where the individual asked me to take out my resume on the plane and ask the person next to the person next to them who was sitting in the middle aisle if they can switch seats in mid-flight. Why is that important? 3 weeks prior, I had training to connect, to do networking. And at the time, I thought it was really networking. How do I network? But what I really honed in on was the opportunity to work on an elevator pitch. And the elevator pitch in that particular moment allowed me to present myself in such a way where it translated into a conversation. And what you're going to hear today is the techniques, the specific techniques that you are going to use and how you're going to modify it based on the atmosphere, based on who you're connecting with, based on the time of day, depending on where you are, and ultimately where your goals are. So I want to introduce our guest speakers for today, who has been a trainer, who has been a consultant of myself and other individuals that are part of our chapter from a corporate level. And I want to take the opportunity to introduce Danielle Heuer. Danielle Heuer has had over 20 years of cross-industry coaching and consulting experience. She has a strong background in leadership and development, communication skills, and relationship management, which is very important. She also has developed solutions to help job improvement performance and morale while developing skills that help in career progression. Danielle is passionate about building communication and inspiring, maximizing contributions, which is very key. One of her key skills is she's a dynamic speaker. She's an instructor. She also understands the needs of individuals. And I had an opportunity to be coached by Danielle a couple years back, and has been tremendous impact on myself and other individuals. She also has earned opportunities to be a guest. I'm sorry, a part-time lecturer, and has also won an award from the Rutgers School of Communication, my alma mater, RU, and also teaches courses on business and organizational writing and interpersonal communication. I'm so happy to have Danielle here. Again, without further ado, I want to introduce Danielle here from WD Communications. And I think you're on mute, Danielle.
Hey, now you can hear me.
Yes, I can. How are you doing today?
I am doing really well. Thank you so much for having me. What an honor to be here with you and the entire chapter. Thank you for allowing me to spend some time with you this evening. This great intro that you just gave. What an exciting opportunity. So many great dates and opportunities for everyone to get out there and sell themselves, right? That this is really what we're talking about tonight. How do we sell our value? And as Norval kind of alluded to, I get super excited about equipping people with communication skills that help them do just that. Now, since we're talking about the elevator pitch today, let's think about that specifically. We know that communication skills can help us in our roles be more effective. They can help us get promotions. They can help us be more productive and maybe even sometimes make more money, which I love. And we know that the elevator pitch is a great opportunity for us to not only share what we're passionate about, to share our dreams, but to spotlight how we do it well, how we communicate effectively. So when you put those two things together, it's really a recipe, as Norval just described for us on that airplane. It's a recipe for really spotlighting why you'd be an asset. But there is always a but, right? So here's the but. The but is, it can be stressful sometimes. Do you sometimes feel stressed when you're thinking, oh gosh, I gotta pitch myself? Of course you do. We all do. Tooting our own horns sometimes feels a little bit awkward, not knowing how much to say about ourselves or which achievements to spotlight. It can be really stressful, and you're not alone. It's a bit intimidating. So what I want to do tonight is I want to give you a few strategies and a few tools that you can put in your pocket and take with you for all of those events you have lined up. And you can easily access them and say, okay, I'm going to use this right now, or I'm going to use this one right now. And the reason you have different ones is because each opportunity to connect is different. And we want to have things readily accessible to be able to use them in the moment to be successful while we reduce our stress. So that's my goal. That's my goal tonight. What we'll do is, I think you know enough really about me. Norval did a great job talking about me. I don't know if you need to know too much more. You'll have the slide deck if you ever want to come back to it. But this is my passion. I love communications. Go RU. I also graduated from the School of Communications, and what an honor I have to get to go back there and teach. I love when I'm on site, which since COVID is not as often. I love the smell of the Rutgers classrooms. I feel like I remember what it smelled like when I was there. And is that weird? It's a little bit weird, but I just love that whole experience. Enough about me though. Let's talk about elevator pitches. Okay. If you're thinking about having to deliver a pitch and all those great opportunities you have lined up, I want you to think about what's most challenging for you. And you can feel free to chat this in if you want. I'm going to talk about a lot of ways to overcome challenges, but if there's any specific challenge you want me to know about, definitely feel free to share it. But I want you to think about, what is that thing that is most stressful for you when you're getting in front of someone and having to sell yourself. And this is hard work. You see the quote here on the slide. Selling yourself is both the easiest and hardest thing to do. I mean, heck, no one knows us better than ourselves, so it should be an easy job. But putting ourselves on the spot like that, and I'm guessing for some of you, being concise, right? For me, that's one of my struggles, is how do I sell myself in just a few sentences? And what we have to remind ourselves of, and I'll get to this in a little bit more deeply, is we're just the tip of the iceberg. When we do the intro elevator pitch, it's like the trailer of a movie. It's only supposed to get people interested, and it hopefully leads to other things. So if you're like me, when I was really pitching myself a lot earlier in my career, and trust me, I still do it now, I kept thinking of the elevator pitch as a static thing. It's this thing I have to pitch myself. And over time, I realized it's a part of something. It's more of a journey. So the elevator pitch is one part of the journey, the actual words you say. I know last time in your first session you worked on the research, that was actually part of your journey. I'm going to share with you today a bit of a cycle of pitching yourself, so you can see that it's actually a cycle that keeps coming back and keeps coming back, and you're always tweaking it and you're always revisiting it and you're always talking about yourself. I know that sounds weird, because you want to share your passions and your dreams. The more we do that, the more we connect, the more we make magic. So with that being said, one of my most nerve-wracking things that I always found challenging was the when. I'm at an event. Do I just pitch myself to the people I targeted earlier before I came, the folks I researched? Or do I pitch myself to everyone? Or what time of day do I pitch it? When at the coffee machine, that seems that maybe someone's distracted. In a restroom, trust me, I've thought about it, right? And I've heard of some good pitches in restrooms, so I'm not going to completely overrule it. But we are strategically trying to figure out the when. But here's what's beautiful about these opportunities that you have lined up. There are so many opportunities to deliver the pitch and practice the pitch. Sometimes we're so caught up in the person we want to meet, the person we want to pitch ourselves to, that we don't get the practice pitching ourselves to everyone else. We should be doing that. That's how we're going to hear ourselves say our pitch. That's how we're going to say, oh, I didn't like the way that sounded, or maybe I should say that differently. And we're building our network, and our network is going to help us any way we slice it. So we really want to meet as many people as we can. It's really probably in our best interest to do that. In fact, I'm going to tell a quick story. I had this incredible experience through networking where I got to meet a Hollywood producer and director. And for me, a little me working in communications, that seems really outside of my normal networking connection. So I got to actually not just meet, but do a coaching session with Gary Goldstein. I don't know if anyone remembers what he might have worked on. Quite a few different movies. I am most familiar with Pretty Woman. That's one of my favorites of his. So Pretty Woman was one of the movies that he was involved in. But what I want to share with you is what he told me about this idea of pitching yourself. He said, don't get caught up in not delivering a pitch because you're not sure if it's the right person. We want to meet as many people as we can in life, right? That's honestly what we really want. As humans, we want to just keep connecting. Every connection could be another connection. So even though you might be going out thinking this is the person who's going to help sell my movie, all these other people might know this person. All these other people might know other people that might know this person. So we don't really know. And we get caught up in sometimes, who do I pitch to? There's going to be so many opportunities. It's really like waves. Waves keep rolling in and there's another set rolling in. That's your opportunities. So many opportunities to get this practice of pitching yourself out there. I promised I would share you a cycle of elevator pitches. So this is the journey, if you will. It's not a static event. You did the preparation, so you did a lot of that already, and it never really ends. You're sort of always preparing, and we'll talk about that. Then you have the practice. You want to hear yourself say it a few times. You might even want to get feedback. And I know some of you might be thinking, that's awkward and uncomfortable to ask for feedback on a pitch, but think about it. You're all in the same shoes right now. Right? We're all doing the same thing. Why not ask each other? Let me run my pitch by you. After we do that, we want to start thinking about, well, after I get feedback on it, I have to just start delivering it. I have to get it out there and deliver it to as many people as I can. And yes, I might sometimes fail. And some of you might even have your own epic fail stories. I have my own, and I'll share a couple others later. We fail sometimes, but that's okay. We assess, we figure out what didn't go well in that interaction, and we tweak it for the next time. We rework it. We totally rework it. And then ultimately, what I want to definitely leave with you today is I want you to have versions of your pitch. So there might be a version of your pitch where you go into more depth and a version of your pitch where you go even tighter. And I want you to have even other versions that are ready in your pocket almost. So you can pull them out and use them depending on the time and the person and the relationship. So let's start at the top here. I know that you've done a lot of prep work. So we'll kind of shift through the prep. You've done a lot of the research. I'm going to pick up at the practice, but I'm going to weave in a little prep stuff that seems pretty natural. So let's imagine you're pretty much ready. You have your ideas, but you haven't really said it out loud yet. You want to make sure you practice it because your delivery is way more than the words. So you've done the research and you figured out who you are, and you've tweaked, you looked at your resume and figured out some of the things that you may or may not put in your pitch. But you have to say them out loud. You have to hear the flow, and you have to figure out whether I'm remote like this in an online meeting people virtually, or if I'm in person, how do I look when I say the things about myself? We've already alluded to the fact that when we think about saying things about ourselves, it's a little awkward. So if we look awkward when we're saying the things about our accomplishments and about our passions and dreams, that probably won't land really well. So I don't know if a lot of you have tried the recording yourself. I do it all the time. I did it yesterday for something I was delivering today. I recorded myself. It's good to just see how am I landing on this audience? Believe it or not, upwards of about 60% of your message comes through your nonverbals. I know that's weird, right? It could be up to 60%. If you're smiling, what you're doing with your arms, if you're sitting up straight or standing up straight. When we're face to face with people at these networking events, we get tired. And then what happens to our posture? And we do that hip lean thing where we kind of lean our hip out, and we have to remind ourselves, what am I looking like at this moment? I want to look natural and authentic, but I don't want to look like I was just beat up. Since you have some virtual ones coming up, let's talk a little bit about the body language in virtual. You get this real estate. This is all you get. You have to use it. I want you to think about the online screen like you employ it, like you hired this screen to make you look good. Because if you think about it that way, you will use the screen. You'll use the real estate. We just saw Norval demonstrate a really excellent use of making eye contact and getting some gestures and smiling and facial expressions and natural energy. So if you're meeting virtually, make sure you're thinking about that. I was in a session yesterday where somebody was gesturing, but all the gestures were down here, which is natural if we're standing. But if we're seated, we couldn't see very many of these gestures. Every so often we saw a finger would go by, but we couldn't see the full gesture. And when he looked at the video, he said, oh gosh, I really wanted them to be up here. But you may have to practice this a little bit because you might not be used to delivering content this way. And you might want to make sure. You also want to make sure you're about an arm's distance from your computer. You want to put your arms out like this. This is going to be the perfect distance to be able to see facial expressions and get movement in. So I can lean in when I really want you to capture a moment with me, or maybe I lean out. And it also helps me to make sure I'm standing up, sitting up straight. The other thing that's on this slide is your vocals. If you find yourself to be a little soft-spoken, right? Some of you might be nodding right now thinking, yeah, I don't like to be loud. I don't want to be yelling, especially virtually. There is an element of our delivery vocally that almost has to come across louder than you think it should for it to feel normal. And that's weird, right? But it's so true. If you record yourself, you can almost catch it a little bit, because if you use your normal everyday voice, you'll hear that you kind of sound like this. But in the meanwhile, you're thinking, I don't sound like that in person. But when it goes over technology and lands in that listener's ears, it doesn't have the same energy. So you actually have to dial it up a little bit more. If you struggle with this, you might want to stand for some of your virtual elevator pitch deliveries. You'll get such a natural, louder voice. And if you're naturally loud, you can sit, because that'll just work fine for you. The other thing that you see at the bottom here is using natural conversational tone. And that's a little hard because what's natural about what we're doing, right? It's not natural. So you almost have to practice it so you can come across natural. You can come across conversational, even though you don't feel very conversational. And that might mean some peaks and valleys, some very tiny little breather pauses, making sure you're not saying filler words, things like that. Now, this is one element I want you to put in your pocket. And Amy Cuddy, who is the author of the book you see to the left, Amy Cuddy, if you haven't watched her TED Talk, it's amazing. And her book is amazing. There's so much science behind our nonverbals and the message they send to other people, as well as the message nonverbal sends to ourselves. I want you to feel confident when you deliver your pitch. So if you use powerful nonverbal body language, it actually sends a message to your brain telling you you've got this. When we feel intimidated or stressed, we sometimes close ourselves off and we get a little smaller, but that sends a message to our brain that we don't have this. And Amy Cuddy, in her research, talks about the fact that in a first impression environment, in a pitch environment, people are looking to immediately, in your very short pitch, to feel like you are warm and friendly, while also being credible and competent. So your expertise needs to shine as well as your connection at the same exact time. That can be hard in a couple sentences. So we definitely want to practice that. I also think we want to practice how we need to show up for events, because we want to have a very consistent feeling. Remember, the pitch is a couple sentences we deliver to someone, whether we're sitting next to them on a plane or we're grabbing coffee during a break. That moment is a moment. But remember, that person that Norval sat next to or near on the plane, that person saw Norval enter the plane. That person might have noticed Norval when they were waiting to get on the plane at the gate. I know, you know what's coming next, right? So we have to be on. We're almost in our elevator pitch mode from the second we think we're going to encounter an opportunity. If we're going to a conference, Norval, you said it best. Everyone on that plane is probably going to the same place. Be aware of that. So you want to show up pitch ready. So just like Stacey Abrams says here in this quote underneath her picture of her book, Lead from the Outside, she goes into every single interaction and opportunity already figuring out, how do I need to show up here? How do I plan on engaging and being engaged with? And I might need to carry that from the second I walk in the door somewhere, because that's when we sometimes lose confidence. And when we have the opportunity to do the pitch, we've kind of lost it already. Or we go to pitch ourselves to someone, but they remember us entering the place, not making eye contact, or being on our phone during a presentation, or not putting our cameras on during an event. So these kind of things might register and build up to influencing the success of your elevator pitch. The reason this is in the practice category is I really want you to strategically think about it as you're getting ready and practicing, so that when you get to an event, you're already thinking, how do I need to show up from the second I arrive at this event? Even if it's virtual, from the second I log on, I need to be elevator pitch ready, making eye contact, looking comfortable, looking ready. Once you've done some practicing, I find it incredibly helpful to ask for feedback. So this might be contacting other members and asking them, hey, let's practice together. It might be people you work with. Family, I don't love asking family. That might be a me thing. I feel like they're always so nice to us, right? They're going to say, oh, it's good, or it's fine, which is the title of the slide, right? Good and fine are not going to help you. So ask people who you feel can be honest with you, but also don't just say, how did I do? Because that's not going to tell you enough. I want you to think about specifically, what do you want to know? Was I clear? Did I sound warm? Remember Amy Cuddy, do I sound warm and engaging while also sounding credible and competent? If you didn't hear one of those, please let me know. Was I saying too much, or maybe you didn't hear something that made you interested? Maybe my trailer wasn't fascinating enough. Did I come across authentic? And then remember that core value. Could you get a sense of my personal brand and who I am? Was that coming through? If not, and I'll sometimes ask people, what do you think my brand is? What do you think my core value is? And if they name the wrong thing, I think, back to the drawing board I go. I'm going to need to go back to that drawing board because I can't take the risk that someone else isn't going to really see it. So here's another list of questions you can think about asking. You can get even more specific. Did I connect my pitch to you? So this might mean that you ask your feedback person to play a role. Imagine that you are this person from Puma, and I really am excited to be able to connect with you. That area of the company is somewhere that I'm really passionate about, and I want to work there as well. So now I have to think about, did I connect not just me and my core values, but everyone I'm connecting to with my elevator pitch is a different person. Their roles might be different. Their interests might be different. The moment you're in might be different. Could be an airplane. Could be the shuttle bus to a rental car. Could be the restroom, like we said before, right? So you want to make sure you're not just connecting about you. Is there something you can insert? And there's not always, so don't give yourself too much stress. But if there's a way that you can make the connection personal, that will have so much weight. Even if it's, oh, I've heard so much about you from Norval. That's great. You want to ask if you came across curious and human. So remember, the people you're pitching to are being pitched by a lot of people. So they're hearing a lot of pitches. So how do I make sure that mine comes across incredibly human, like someone you'd like to work with? I love the next one. I want everyone right now to be thinking about, do you know what your superpower is? That's part of your brand. It's part of your core value. What is that thing about you that makes you so uniquely different from someone else who might do the same work as you? If you can really tap into that and then reveal that in your elevator pitch, people connect to it. They feel it. They feel your passion. And then I like this last one as well. I like to think about our elevator pitches positioning us as people who serve audiences. So who do you serve? Who benefits from the magic that you get to deliver? I mean, is it people in general? Is it a segment of an audience? Is it a certain department in an organization? Is it after something occurs or before something else does? And can we pinpoint it a little bit? Because that might even add more value to the people we're pitching to. I want you to imagine now that you've got your pitch sort of figured out. You've done some practicing. You've been focusing on getting some feedback to help you really firm it up and get it nice and strong. Because now we got to think about the next step in this cycle. I got to start delivering this thing. And I want to deliver it as often as I can. Because even if I deliver it to someone that I'm thinking maybe we have really nothing in common and there's no cross path in the future, I got to practice delivering my pitch. I got to get warmed up. So look for opportunities to even warm up. Remember we said the set of waves, there's so many opportunities, one after the next, after the next. Well, use them. If you see one that's maybe low risk, but not a great opportunity, but maybe just practice with that person. Maybe just be curious. You keep bumping into someone every time you get coffee or every time you go to the restroom. Why not say, hey, I keep bumping into you. My name is. Who are you? Even if it turns out not being someone that's going to help in terms of your recruitment goals, they could still really be part of your network. So really broaden your focus here and meet people. Like Gary Goldstein said, we don't know who we're meeting, so we just want to meet as many people as we can. The more people we get to share our passion and dreams with, the more opportunities we have to have them fulfilled. We have to just get comfortable sharing them. And the sharing might be a little bit different. So let's just imagine you've shared a couple times. Some of them are going to be successes. Some of them might not be, right? Some of them might be failures. It happens. And you might even have a failure story. These happen sometimes. I think my most common failures is that I say too much. I'm an over talker. I know. I actually have to tell myself, Danielle, you can have 5 sentences. That's my strategy with an elevator pitch. No more than 5. I tell myself knowing that I might say 6 or 7, but at least I'm keeping it under 10. And if I catch myself going on too long, I'll say, that's it. You must end it. Because I know myself. And if they're interested, if my trailer did what it was supposed to do, what will that person do? continue talking to me or ask me to take my resume out, right? So if we do it well enough, we don't have to worry that it's short because we've dropped in the right information to get someone to say, oh, I want to know more about that. But sometimes we don't do it well. In fact, Amy Cuddy tells a story in her book and her TED Talk about her epic fail of an elevator pitch. And this was 8 years before her work on presence and her TED Talk. She didn't deliver her TED Talk till 8 years after this incident. She was in her 5th year of her doctoral program. And she was going to a conference like we are talking about these opportunities that you all have. And she's excited. She's going to rub elbows with some really nice, prominent people that might help her get a job in a very esteemed academic institution. She's got it planned out. She's ready for it, or so she thinks. Pops into an elevator, and 3 psychologists, very well known, from very prominent schools, are in this elevator. Now, they know exactly why people want to meet them. They know people are networking. So they actually ask her, hey, you're probably here for the conference. What kind of research are you doing? They invite her to elevator pitch. She doesn't do it well. She doesn't. It's awful. And even when you read her words in the book, you can feel it for her. Dismal failure, epic failure. She even knows that it happens. She tries to start over after it doesn't come out right initially. And then that gets all flustered up. And now they're going down they're actually in an elevator. They go down the elevator and now the doors are getting open. And one of the professors turns around and looks at her and says these very words. That was the worst pitch I've ever heard. I know. Can you believe it? So Amy Cuddy obviously overcame it pretty successfully, right? She's doing very well for herself. So don't worry. If you have a failure, you're probably going to. We're human. Assess afterwards and say, okay, what did I do wrong? Or what could have helped me be more comfortable? So we know the elevator pitch in an elevator is immediately more stressful because we have even less time. So Amy Cuddy was probably thinking, I'm going to see them on the conference room floor where I have more time. So she had this immediate stress. You know what the second stressor was, right? She wasn't planning on delivering it to 3 esteemed psychologists at the same exact moment. The eye contact thing, there's 3 of them, the pressure. She wasn't ready for that. So you really have to get yourself amped up for anything that might occur. And then she says she didn't quite practice it like she should have. So she wasn't sure how she was going to start, and it got really, really bumpy. But she's still here today. She overcame it. So if you have a failure, don't even worry about it. Just pick yourself right back up and go to the next person because there will be another opportunity to deliver it. You'll also see on this slide some phrases for connecting. And I think it might have been also a roadblock for Amy, not knowing how to start. Do I just dive right in or do I say, oh, thank you, it's great to meet you? We don't always know. And I can't tell you that I do it the same way every time. I try to go naturally for what's happening in that moment. So if in that moment we're on the shuttle bus going to pick up a rental car and I sit next to someone, I might talk about the conference that we just left. Well, that was a really long day, but so rewarding. And then that person says something. And then maybe I say, yeah, my name's Danielle. So I might ease into it. I might just drop myself cold because sometimes that works, but sometimes it feels awkward. And I think sometimes we can even just say, hello, hi, how are you? My name is Danielle. And we don't have to overthink it. Other times we might want to have some kind of realization of what's happening in that moment and make my comment connect to that. So if it's 5 o'clock after a very long day, we might want to comment on that. We might say, hey, I have been looking for you all day. I heard you at the conference. I know it's the end of the day. If I could have 2 minutes, I'd love to introduce myself. And who's going to say no to that? But they're also aware that you get it. You're going to hopefully not talk for the 10 minutes. I mean, that might be something I would do. We're going to hope that we don't do that we don't overtalk. Now, if we make a fail, if something doesn't go the way we want, we just adjust. We adjust our sails. No big deal. What would work better? What didn't work for me? I mean, what do I personally need to do to feel more comfortable if I'm faced in that situation again? What do I need to be ready for? Now, once you've gone through the trials and errors and you're warming up and your pitch is always getting better and better and better, right? It's getting better. Then you might start to say, oh, I'm getting pretty good at this. I'm getting comfortable. I'm going to have a couple of versions of my pitch. I might look at my resume and say, sometimes I'm going to talk about this. And sometimes I might talk about this. Sometimes I might talk about both of them. I want to have versions ready so that this way, depending on who I'm talking to, I can very easily grab that. I'm not looking flustered. So for me, some of my versions of my elevator pitches, I'll sometimes drop some data. Sometimes I talk about the fact that 30% of what takes us to get promoted is executive presence. Yeah, a lot of senior leaders will decide on whether or not you're ready for the next level by how you show up. Yeah. So 30% is a pretty big number. Sometimes I talk about that statistic on 60% of our nonverbals weighing into our communications. I don't always share those things. It depends on what I'm talking about. Sometimes I share a story. I'll talk about someone I coached recently, and that was my timer to see how long I've been talking, so I know I need to get there. So that was for me, not for all of you. So sometimes I'll do that. I'll put a story about one of my coaching wins because I think that might resonate a little bit better. Lots of different ways that we can have in our pocket to connect with our elevator pitch. It doesn't need to be the same 4 or 5 sentences. That could be the core, but then you might talk a little story. You might sometimes be a little shorter. Now, what does this mean for all of us as elevator pitch deliverers? We have to know what we want to say. We have to know a cold. We have to be ready so we can repackage it at any moment. Thank you for that. Norval says I'm good on time. Thank you. All right, let's talk about some pitch examples. So not to worry, I feel like elevator pitches are so personal and so subjective. I don't want you to look at these and think you have to make yours like this. Absolutely not. I would way prefer that you do something that feels really authentic. That's part of your personality, that matches the situation. So these are just ideas so you can see what people pull into pitches. And these are 2 different ones. So I thought it would be nice to see 2 different types of pitches. So the first one says, I'm Kathy Logan, and I'm a professional organizer helping people reduce stress and clutter in their lives. So one of the things, I'm going to stop there for a moment. One of the things I really want you to think about is who you serve, right? Who's going to benefit from the value that you provide? And what's this thing you want to be known for? And I'm not sure we know it exactly yet, but we already got this, I reduce stress and clutter. That's a pretty specific thing she's claiming to have control over. And it's something everybody can relate to. It's amazing. So look at what she decided to do as a strategy. It's amazing the impact an organized space can have on your mood, productivity, and of course, your stress level. So that's very strategically placed. Like instead of dropping a piece of data, instead of talking about a win she recently had, she's connecting this way. And that might be because she's somewhere where she knows people might be being challenged with productivity and stress. And that's a beautiful way to make the connection. By creating spaces that feel more functional, I help clients feel more confident and prepared. This is where we get to see what gets her up in the morning. You can find out more and make an appointment at my website and watch your stress level immediately decrease. So now we also get a sense that she's kind of funny, right? She's got a little witty side to her. She seems to have a bit of a personality, and we can almost sense this from just a couple sentences. Let's contrast that with the next one. This one starts out a little bit differently. It's great to meet you. I'm Steve, and I'm with Calco Solutions. As our name suggests, our goal is to solve your workflow bottlenecks with enterprise workflows that improve productivity and collaboration for manufacturers. Bit of a long sentence, but you can see he's packing in. I work in the manufacturing space. That's where my expertise is. I want to be known for improving things, streamlining processes, making sure that he gets that out there. So he's putting a lot of things into one sentence so that person can walk away getting a sense for that. Now, he could drop in a win or something, or a system that he uses. And I was even thinking, I was surprised there wasn't some system in here, but he might have been nervous about using jargon. Right? You call it something in your organization, someone else might call it something different. My specialty is customizing solutions that fit into your existing workflows for easy implementation and adoption. I love seeing my clients recover budget dollars when they see how much money they are saving. So a little bit of a different style. So right now, if all of us right here were to deliver our pitches, they would have very similar elements, but they would sound completely different. We would all start them differently. Our tone would be differently. Our facial, everything would be very personal to who we are. But the elements would be very similar. Now that you've seen the samples and you're familiar with this flow of pitching, where do you have some questions? I know Norval has a couple for me, but if anyone wants to put any in chat, and Norval's going to share my contact information, so you can feel free if you want to run one by me. I do not mind. If you wanted to reach out and talk to me about maybe how a resume and pitch connect better, I don't mind that either. You can tell I get a little excited about it. I like helping people talk less than I do.
And this is there we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2.
There you go. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes.
Yes.
Just hearing an echo here. Give me 1 second. Okay, there we go. Well, there's a lot to peel back. And again, for those of you who are on, please feel free to use the chat feature. We want to be able to engage you, answer some of the questions. Now, one of the things that I've learned in this journey is that you evolve. And and this is going to be a question that I saw one in the chat that I'm going to bring up too. But when you are looking at your elevator pitch, my question to you is it safe to make multiple elevator pitches at the same time in the early stages? How do you start evolving in your conversation as you start evolving in your professional career? What does that really look like?
So I don't know that I have different pitches, but I have a core that's pretty consistent across all of my pitches, but I might expand on it differently. So for me, something that's super important for me to always get across when I'm meeting people is that I want to empower learners. I want to give them the tools and resources and skills so that they can own their careers and really be successful. So that's something I almost always build in. But from there, I might add in different elements. So let's say I had this great opportunity to partner with this great industry leader. And that was recent. So that might not have been in my pitch earlier. I might bring that in now and say, for example, I just recently worked with so-and-so where we equipped learners with. So I keep it consistent with my message, but I might drop in something that's really recent that shows that, I've been doing this for 20 years, but look what I've just done right now.
And thanks for that. I'm going to bring up a question here from Shawnee. How do you really rebound from a failed pitch? Now, I'll let the expert handle that, but I have some thoughts on that as well.
No, you give me yours first.
So it's not necessarily how you start, and you don't want to start over. So what I've realized is that in fumbling words, maybe you're excited, maybe it's failed because you said the wrong thing, maybe you said the wrong company. Identify why it's wrong, why you failed, but turn it into an opportunity to engage the person. Where if it is a mishap when in terms of fumbling words, or if it's a wrong company, you can talk about how exciting it is to be here. I know it's been a long day. It's so much on my mind, but I'm really excited to connect with you. At the end, I am very passionate. You can rephrase it. So I'm passionate about whatever that thing is, but I'll let you, of course, as an expert to that.
I think that's exactly what I would do. If it's something, listen, the people you're connecting with know it's awkward. They know this is uncomfortable. And 90% of them are on your side. They want to see you be successful, because if it's awkward for you, it's awkward for them, right? They don't want you to not have a good pitch. They would ideally want everyone to have a great pitch, because guess what? They're looking for talent. So the more good pitches they have, the more talent they get to be exposed to. So if you're human and you fumble something like a name, you can correct it and say, oh my gosh, what a long day. And that person's going to understand. You don't even sweat that one. You don't even sweat that. If it's a bigger fumble, but you're willing, because at this point, I risk reward everything, right? Risk reward. What's the risk at this point of me saying, let me do a take two on that one, and then just go with what's my next sentence, right? Now, I'm not going to be all official and start over. Like Norval said, I'm not going to be like, okay, but I might use my personality and say, somebody needs a glass of water. I might just say, okay, here's what I meant to say. Now, at this point, my fail rate would be about the same, because if they don't see the value after I already recovered, I was failing anyway. So for you, there's a low risk in you saying, what do I have to lose? I just messed up. I'm going to rebound and say this. Now, another thing I do love, and I encourage everyone to do this. Let's say you don't think it went well. And you try to connect afterwards and you think that you're getting like nothing. You're thinking, oh gosh, it's because of what happened, right? Well, I would just be open about it, right? I would, if I reached out to Norval and I completely feel like I epic failed something, and I think, oh gosh, she's thinking I'm not qualified, I'm not competent. I sent a LinkedIn request. I kind of feel like I got ghosted. I'm like, oh gosh, he really doesn't want to connect with me. I might try again and say, hey, I know I epically failed introducing myself to you at the XYZ conference. I'd love a second opportunity. If I would completely, because again, you have nothing to lose, right? Norval will probably laugh and go, oh, I didn't even ghost her. I was busy. I was traveling, right? We think we were ghosted. We think people don't want to connect with us because that's what our minds like to do to us. But he was probably busy and he probably didn't know my name because there were so many names trying to connect. But if I say that, oh, he knows exactly who he was. And he says, hey, you know what? I kind of appreciate that. I'd love to connect with you. So don't feel like even down the road that fail can't be turned around, because again, you have nothing to lose. You're just connecting and meeting people.
One thing I would add to that is keep this in mind. The company that you are engaging with is not a one-of-one in terms of one employee, right? So if you feel like you epically bombed and then you failed, it is okay to come back in about 10 to 15 minutes or whatever time it is and speak to someone else. If it's a company that you're really passionate about. In addition to that, especially if the other person on the other side of that career Expo area did not see you as well, there's nothing wrong with taking a take two, because you never know. All you need is the right person to tell you, yeah, let's go ahead and continue this conversation. And goes to the next question that I see here, which again, this is a very classic example of what to pay attention to and how to pivot. So this question here is, well, how do you pivot when a person is not giving the right body language and they're not receptive, to your pitch?
So that's a tough one, right? Because that starts to weigh on us, and we feel it, and we start to think, and we don't know what to do in that moment. The risk reward thing, I could go forward and keep talking, but they don't seem to be receptive. So I don't know if I'm misreading something. So there's a couple things you could do. If you're thinking, I have no reason to believe they don't want to be receptive, but I'm reading something in body language, I always try to give people the benefit of the doubt. Don't we sometimes use body language incorrectly? We do, right? Sometimes we sit with our arms like this because I'm always cold, right? Sometimes we're not making eye contact, not because we don't want to be engaged, but because somebody's trying to wave us down across the room and we're trying to be polite and do one of those things where, no, I am listening to you. So what I try to do first is say, could I be misreading this? So a nice pause to find out if you're misreading it is stop talking about yourself and ask about them. And say, hey, so what about you? And what's some of the things you've been working? Just find something to redirect it. You'll find out immediately. If they come back and they're with you, you misread it. They were just having a moment. They're human, right? If they're still giving you that, then and you say, hey, it looks like you're busy. Thank you so much for your time. It was great meeting you. I sometimes, again, my risk reward here, if I think, okay, I didn't feel any love here, I might, because what do I have to lose at this point, say, is there anyone else you recommend that I meet that would be a good contact for me? Because why not? I have nothing to lose, because I already don't feel the love with them. But maybe, to Norval's point, their colleague would be super receptive to me. So they might say, oh, there's someone over in the room. They're coming back in a few minutes. I'll say, I'm going to come back and meet them. Thank you so much. Again, nothing to lose if you do that.
Two things to add here, and I think you hit it on the nail. One, when you are connecting with companies, especially at our conference, you're probably going to be aligned with a number of people. Pay attention to the person that is at the end of the line, which is the person that you want to connect with, and pay attention to the interactions that person has with the candidates right before you. So you find out what are the key words that the person is saying that probably triggers certain reactions from body language perspective. The reality is that most of these individuals that are recruiters or from TA or from the company have been on their feet all day. And I have often mentioned how thankful I am of you being here. I know you've I know you have been standing for quite some time. I'm pretty sure it's been a long day for you, but I appreciate the opportunity. I want to introduce myself. My name is Norval Barrington. I'm an MBA candidate at Rutgers Business School, focusing, and I go into my elevator pitch. I feel like it's like yesterday. You don't forget your elevator pitch. No, you don't forget your elevator pitch. The second thing, in terms of body language, that I will also highlight here is that your body can also give off the wrong body language. When you enter a person's space, especially now that we are in the post-COVID area, you also want to be respectful of, is it what I'm saying? Or am I entering a space where a person may want to take a step back? So those are just some considerations here. And again, there's no right way, but it is maybe the appropriate way to engage someone from a body language perspective. And I mean, there's more I can say there, but let's go to another.
Well, that's such a great point, though, right now about this. We're in a weird stage of COVID, so be really aware of that. I heard yesterday in a training class that there were folks that were not in my class, but in another training class who were really not comfortable because the COVID numbers are still at a weird place. So we might be feeling like, oh, I don't really know anyone. It seems okay now, but other people might have different experiences. So it's great to be aware of that. Absolutely. All right, sorry. What was the other question? Yeah.
So we have Cheryl Carter, who says, can you give some guidance in terms of how to create your elevator pitch? Now we talk about fundamentals. What are some considerations in creating one, which I think is going to be something that's going to be tried and tested. What do you say to that?
So I like when I hear a pitch from someone that's going to touch on a couple of things. Your core value. I want to know what your brand is. Who are you? I want a little bit of that in your delivery. And that could be a sentence. Like, don't overthink it, but I definitely want to feel that. I need to feel who you are. I want to know kind of like, not necessarily what you're most proud of, but if you could tell me one thing about you that you think would weigh the most into me wanting to connect, you need to pick that, because you can't read your resume, right? So you might pick your degree program. You might pick a project that you worked on. You might pick and you might be able to do two of them. You could pick like a project and then a degree. And you could package it in the same sentence together. As a communications bachelor's and master's, and now teaching at my same school, this is an area like I could put that in one sentence, right? You kind of get it all in there together, so that I can get, hey, I got all of this academic background, plus I'm now teaching there. That might make a head nod. But I have to strategically do this. So it's a combination of who you are, what you want to be known for. What's that if someone was to hire you, how would you make a difference on this team? What's this asset that you would provide? What's your value? But then I need to package that with one or two pieces of accomplishment or achievement. And I could be creative like I just did and get a couple of things in one sentence, because you really want to get it down to no more than 5 sentences at its core. And then what you might do after you have 4 or 5 sentences that you feel really good about, you might have these little tangents where you have a piece of data you might share if there's more time, or you might have a story you might share. Because if you have more time where somebody starts to converse with you, you can't just have your 5 sentences and go, oh, that's all I have ready. You have to be ready to have the conversation. So I hope that helps.
Oh, no, that I think you definitely hit on some things. There's another question here. When looking at career changes, this is something that's critical, especially now that everyone is changing or adjusting careers. What do you do in terms of when you have a person changing careers? I'm good with the elevator pitch, but how do I pitch what I bring to the table?
So there are a couple of ways you can do that. You could even say, I've heard people say, what I bring to the table is, right? You could say that. You can say where I make a difference, or I'm known for being the person that does X, Y, and Z. Where you'd see the most value with me is, there's lots of different ways you can package it, so you can decide, do I want to come up really strong and say, hey, I'm owning this. This is what I would deliver. Or do I want to give you maybe an example that shows what I deliver? So I can tell a kind of a short story about where I added value. So there's a lot of ways that you can build in. So for example, I just worked with, or for example, I had this great opportunity recently. Those can show your value. And I like that you're thinking about that. Smart.
And I know we have one more question here, but this is more of a comment. I think you know this person very well. And a lot of it has to do with stress and challenging. And this is a transparent moment here. When it comes to most stressful and challenging thing is for me is trying to interrupt someone talking to someone else, and you're eager to introduce yourself to them. This is tough. I'm gonna get my pen for this one. What do you say to this?
Okay, so you have options. And remember, the risk reward thing is going to come back and play. The first thing that you might do, I find this to be the easiest, is see if you can join a conversation. So don't interrupt a conversation. You overhear and say, if you can, anything that you can overhear, and you can kind of insert yourself and say, oh my gosh, I heard you say that. That's fascinating. And then ask a question. Don't I'm not here to pitch myself. I'm here to get into the conversation. And if you can do that, if you can find a way, and then you're hanging there in the conversation for a little bit, and then you kind of can do the redirect where you say, oh, I should have introduced myself. My name's Danielle. And then it can seem a little bit natural. Now, if that doesn't feel natural, if that's hard, or maybe everything they're saying doesn't mean a word to you, so you're like, I can't interrupt that, then you have to find another creative but polite way. So if you're feeling like someone's been monopolizing and you're almost thinking of The Bachelor, and you're thinking, okay, I need, like The Bachelor on the show, they come and they kind of steal The Bachelor. Well, you might be thinking, this is my turn. I have to steal this person. So after politely waiting for what you think is an appropriate amount of time and they've been able to share, you can very politely say, oh, hi, is it okay if I join in here? I see that you're talking about X, Y, and Z, and I also wanted to see if I could introduce myself too. And again, you have to risk reward. How friendly is this person looking? You can sometimes tell when that person wants you to interrupt them. Have you noticed those? Like, somebody, please interrupt me. I can't get away. They might be looking for you, Alicia, to say, please save me. But you have to muster up the confidence, because it is incredibly uncomfortable. But if you do it with a smile on your face and curious and excited to meet people, it's very rarely going to be seen as being rude. It's when you see some people that just go, excuse, can I mean, it's been like a long time. That's not going to ever work, right? Don't do that. Just find a way to say, and maybe it's right before a break. And this is another favorite thing that I do. I try to time those. So maybe it's a few minutes before they're breaking for lunch, or a few minutes before they're breaking for afternoon snack. I might say, do you mind can I squeak in here really quick? Because I know we're breaking for lunch and I wanted to grab you super quickly before we did that. And then the other person will say, oh my gosh, I want to share you, of course. But if you have those, you have to kind of time them. The breaks are perfect.
And for those, again, who are attending our national conference and then ultimately attending some of our in-person events, I think this is where we should leave off, because this is where you're going to be able to maximize how you enter the opportunity for the elevator pitch, how you execute the elevator pitch, and ultimately, what are you trying to gain and ultimately get to the next step in the conversation. So Danielle here for WD Communications on behalf of Alicia Suggs, Vina Morris, our entire team here at NYBLACKMBA. We want to thank you so much. We appreciate everything that you have provided to us. Danielle's information will be available, and we will send you that contact information as well. Then thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you again in person at some point in time. So we thank you again.
No problem. Thank you for having me. Good luck, everyone, and reach out. I want to hear from you. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you again. And this was so important. Again, we're entering a season where networking and connecting is so critical, but the way you do it is going to be even more important, right? So again, Danielle Heuer, WD Communications, we'll send that information out to you. Again, this is part two of 4 installments where we're going to be focusing on prepping for recruiting season, especially in-person events from National Black MBA, and of course our chapter, New York, the Metro New York chapter. Coming up, we want to just give you some quick announcements here. Again, you're going to get an email in regarding to Danielle's contact information. We'll also send you some updated events as well. For those of you who are looking to engage with us, we do have some upcoming events, including our Harlem rooftop event, where we'll be focusing on real estate opportunities, and ultimately we'll have a mixer as well. For those of you who are interested, you can please email us at Reis, R-E-I-S, at nyblackmba.org. You can also email us at employment, if that's easier, employment at nyblackmba.org. If you have questions in regards to coaching, we're going to provide a link that's going to connect you to Molly Reis, who's our communications and professional development director that will put you in contact in terms of career coaching as well. So we'll make sure we get that information to you. You'll also see some job distributions as well in terms of new opportunities that are going to come up. We thank you so much on behalf of our entire team. My name is Norville Barrington. I serve as a chapter president. Enjoy the rest of your evening on this summer. Summer's almost about to be over, but we're going to enter a season where great opportunities are going to present themselves. So have a wonderful evening, and we look forward to connecting with you. And for those of you who would want to watch this again, we're going to make this available on our YouTube page. It's going to be at youtube.com/NYBLACKMBA. So we'll get that information out to you for a replay, and that'll be available for a short period of time. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening.